Okay, so today we're going to be doing the TACAN DME Zulu approach, runway 07 to Kutaisi. Right now, just to set up where we are, just to the northwest of the airfield, heading westbound to pick up the IAF November, which is programmed currently into GPS as waypoint. Messing with the screens right now. Just trying to get myself situated for the approach. We're about 16 miles to go until we reach IAF North. We're going to swing around from the north and then come back in. We're currently at 6,000 feet. The safe altitude is 25 miles in the field. In this sector is 3,800, so we're fine. Once we get out a little closer to IAF November, we're going to start our descent down to 4,000. They want us to cross IAF November at 4,000. And then we're going to maintain that until we get to our final approach course of 075. So you can see I've already got the course set up for 075, since we're going to be using the GPS to get ourselves initially set up. So the way we're going to fly this approach is we're going to maintain 4,000 feet until we reach 16.4 nautical miles, or DME I should say, from the KTS TACAN. And then we're going to start a descent to try to be at 2,600 feet at 11.5 DME, to be level at 2,000 feet before we hit 6.5 DME. By the time we hit 6.5 DME, we want to be completely configured and ready to start our descent. At 6.5 DME, we're going to start our descent using the table in the bottom right-hand corner. So, if you look at the rate of descent for approximately 145 knots ground speed, which is what I figure we're going to be pretty close to on the approach, we want a rate of descent of about 770 feet per minute. So we're going to maintain that, and as we descend, we're just going to watch the DME in knots per nautical mile and the height above the ground. And we're just going to make sure that we're hitting those benchmarks. So if you look at 6 miles, 6 DME, we want to be at 1,850 feet. 5 DME, we want to be at 1,530 feet. And then so on and so on. So that's going to be how we're gauging the approach. The minimums on the approach from the straight in view our DME are 516 feet on the barometric altimeter, or 435 feet set on the ground. Radar altimeter. So currently I have that set on the radar, and then I set up the warnings in the actual aircraft. So we'll get the altitude warning when we reach the barometric. So here we're just going to start our descent now. Once again, we'll assume we're at our radar vectors. We're going to be a little inside of 25 miles, but we should still be good down to 4,000 in this sector. This is a bit of a longer approach. It does this, and it's a bit of an offset approach too. It is offset. The runway is going to be we're offset to the north on the final, and the reason for that is due to the high terrain to the south. So at this stage, we're just trying to build some distance between the IAF November before we turn southbound. So here's the turn southbound. Still in the descent to 4,000. Going a little bit fast, but that's okay. We're at 26 miles from the Kilo Tango Sierra. For now, we'll call it Kutaisi Rwy. So at this stage, we're just going to continue to descend to 4,000 and then proceed direct to the IAF November. Planning to cross that at about 4,000 feet. Now, the idea behind this approach is that, in theory, once we've started our descent, we shouldn't have to level off. The way this approach is designed, we are going to level off at about 2,000 feet. inbound to the FAF. But once we start our descent, we just want to do a constant descent until we see the runway to land. Just level at 4,000 feet. I have slowed back to 220 knots. Big thing with these instrument approaches is the faster you go, the more on top you jump. So we're currently 4.6 nautical miles from IAF November. Just adjusting the track. And once we reach IAF November, we're going to take up a track of 120. There is an error in this approach where we should take up a track of 120 and then reach the IF, which is at 16.4 DME for the TACAN. It doesn't quite work out that way, but it does still work. Just pull up the engine page, just checking the inlet temperature at the very top to make sure we don't get any leasing at 19 degrees Celsius, which should be perfect. Miles from IF November. One mile. So the airport right now, we've got a nice clear section over here, but we did depart Kutaisi, and it is visibility and ceiling of approximately minimums at about 600 to 700. So we just passed IAF November. We're going to put our track on 120. Once again, this is, I think there might be this might have been the magnetic track not running on the Cognizant's map. So now IAF November inbound on a track of 120, still level at 4,000. We're going to maintain 4,000. We're established on our 075 degree course and 16.4. I've already got the pre-descent approach checklist complete. So the next thing to do is get to our descent point, start down, and configure the airplane. Currently on the autopilot. 0.7 nautical miles off course, just coming onto our track. So we were supposed to intercept our inbound course at somewhere approximately 16.4. Once again, it didn't work out that way, but the margin of safety is still maintained. We're on our inbound course, and now we just fly inbound until we reach 16.4. At that stage, we'll begin our descent. To cross those milestones, it's 2,600 feet at 11.5 to be level at 2,000 feet just prior to correction the FAF. Mile back from our descent point. We're just going to watch that. We're going to start the descent at approximately 3 meters slow. And the big number we're watching for is 2,600 feet at 11.5. And we don't want to be below that. 2,600 feet is the minimum altitude we can descend to until 11.5. So if we get there early, we just have to level off and maintain 2,600 feet until we're past 5 meters. So there's our descent point. Just starting the descent now. About whatever rate of descent works to get us there. I think I picked somewhere around an average of 1,000 feet per minute. So we're going to be closer to 12 to 1,300. And that's a function of the airspeed. The faster you are, the more we're going to descend to maintain that 3 degree rise. So we're just watching our track now. We're perfectly on track. We have no cross-track error. We're watching that distance. We're watching the altitude. So we have about 700 feet to lose, about 2 miles at the stage. Correcting our course. little bit of trouble with the automatic throttle control. So 11.5, 2600, so we pretty much hit that on the head. And now we continue our descent down to 2,000 feet. And we want to be level at 2,000 feet prior to 6.5 miles. How far ahead is not really a consequence. At this point I shallow out the descent because I know we have about 5 miles to which to descend 500 feet. So there's no rush to get done. Gradually reducing speed. Once again, the faster you fly, the harder these approaches are. So at this stage we have no vertical guidance, we're just doing this simply following the chart, trying to hit our altitudes as accurately as we can. 2 miles until we have to be level at 2,000 feet. Start configuring the aircraft for the approach. The earlier we configure, the easier it is to hit our benchmarks. So we have 1 mile to be level at 2,000 feet. This approach, I didn't quite make it, I leveled off at 2,100. That's perfectly fine, but you can't be lower than 2,000. Kept working it down to 2,000. We're set up, configured on the approach. We have full flaps and gear down. And now we're watching for our 6.5. And at 6.5 DME, we're doing about 130 knots ground speed. So we're going to start down at about 700 feet per minute. And we got that from the chart. So at this point, our ATC never does respond to me here. So at this point, our scan is our vertical speed, our altitude, our track, and our distance. And we're just cross-checking the next altitude. So at 5 miles, we want to be at about 1,530 feet. So at this point, I think I'm a little high, so I just increase that rate of descent. 5 miles, 1,500 feet. On speed, on track. Our next altitude, at 4 DME, is going to be 1,200. Once again, there's no vertical guidance here, so we're just watching the chart, watching our ground speed, and just following the numbers. So here you can see we're just a tiny bit low, so I just shallow it. 4 miles, we're about 100 feet low, and now we'll start our descent again, about 70 feet. 3 DME, we want to be about 900 feet. Starting to get a little bit of ground contact. The minimums, once again, are 570 feet on the barometric altimeter, 435 feet on the minimum altimeter. So we're just a tiny bit low by about 50 feet. Shallow out the approach a tiny bit. We're starting to get ground contact. So this is looking real good. So one thing about Kutaisi is it doesn't have any approach lights. So you see at this stage, I realize I'm starting to approach my minimum, so I'm about 100 feet above, so I actually shallow out the approach. And the reason is just to give me a little bit more time with the nose down to try and figure out where the runway is. So I'm still looking, watching that altitude, watching the altitude. At this point is when I see the runway, and I begin my descent again. Start making lateral corrections for the center line. And there's our minimums. We know that from the altitude call and the radar altimeter. So we correct for the center line, and at this point we just fly our standard approach. So I finally get landing clearance. This is a bit of a thunker of a landing, but and now we just roll to a stop like normal. and execute. So that was the TACAN VOR, we'll call it, DME approach under runway 07 in Kutaisi. I'll throw the chart link in the description. I hope that was helpful.